All right, so we're on day 4 here. 46 is going to be our new starting point, but we're going to go towards number 52 first. Okay, so 52 right here. They say solve this by factoring. Okay, solve this by factoring. So you can do this box method, X method, that's up to you. I'm just going to do the X method because it's usually the way most people do it. We're going to think of, well, here's my A term, right? A is 1, B is negative 11, C is 28. So 1 times 28 is 28, and negative 11 goes here. So I need two numbers that multiply to 28 that add up to negative 11. So that would be, they're both negative. What are those? Yeah, 4 and 7. Okay. I don't have to divide those because there's no number in front of the n squared other than a 1, right? If it would have been like a negative 2 or a 5, I'd have to divide. So that means that my factors are n minus 4, n minus 7 equal to 0, which means you can set each one equal to 0. That's called the zero product property. So this gives me n equal to 4 and n equal to 7. So that would be D. That's number 52. Questions on this one before we go to 59? All right, so moving on towards 59. Let's see, 59. Solve each equation with the quadratic formula. Simplify your answer. So, okay. So this one means that maybe you can't factor it, whatnot. So they want us to use the quadratic formula, okay? My A term is 2. My B term is negative 2. My C term is negative 12. And they want me to use the formula. So this is our formula. X equals negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So just plug in your numbers. Notice B is a negative number, so it's going to be negative of a negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is negative 12, divided by 2A. A is 2, so it's 2 times 2. Remember, this gets a little messy. Just take your time, write it all out, and then use your calculator to help you out. So X is equal to a positive 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared is 4. And negative 4 times 2 times negative 12, let's see, that's going to be 8. And 8 times 2, that's 16, so that's 96. So plus 96 over 4. Well, 4 plus 96 is 100. What's the square root of 100? 10, right? So here are my two answers. 2 plus 10 over 4 and 2 minus 10 over 4. 2 plus 10 is 12. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 2 minus 10 is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So negative 2 and 3 are going to be my answers. So there you go. Any questions on this one? Again, your calculator is going to be your best friend sometimes, right? Like with some of this stuff. Use those parentheses appropriately, okay? You can type them in. You can type in the whole top part of that radical the way I wrote it, and it knows that parentheses should keep things together. Two parentheses together mean multiplication. It understands it, okay? So just use them appropriately. Make sure you type it in properly, and you should be okay. All right, and then the last one was number 69, so let's go to that one. And then maybe there's more, but at least those were the first three I took. All right. So for this one, the instructions say that they want me to write the equation of a line, or sorry, they want me to write the function where the solutions are negative 3i and I. So if I have a function and if I were to solve for it, my answers would be negative 3i and I. And unfortunately, this is a little deceiving because since these are imaginary numbers, they always come in pairs, right? So negative 3i also has a positive 3i. And the positive I will also have a negative I. So that means I actually have 4 answers, which makes sense because notice how all the answers have x to the 4th as their highest degree. That means there's supposed to be 4 solutions, right? And they just gave me 2. That means there were 2 missing, right? So I knew I had to fill in for the extra. So I'm going to go ahead and write out these solutions here. Remember, keep the pairs together, the twins, if you want to call them that. So x equal to negative 3i, x is 3i, x is negative I, x is positive I. Now write your factors. X plus 3i, x minus 3i, x plus I, x minus I. Now I just want to remind you guys, if you did this enough times, if you did the homework and you practiced it, you know that whenever you multiply pairs, so things like this right here, okay, and this right here, whenever you multiply the pairs or the twins together, the middle terms always cancel, okay? The middle terms will always cancel. Now I'm going to show it to you guys once, but I'm not going to show it to you guys twice because if you do all of the foiling or the distribution with these, you're actually wasting time. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So here we go. Let's start off with this one here, and then we'll go to here and there. So I'm going to do all 4 distributions, okay? I don't like to because here I know I just got to do 2. But let me show you what I'm talking about. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3i, negative 3xi. 3i times x is positive 3xi. And then 3i times negative 3i is negative 9i squared. Notice the middle terms are going to cancel. Okay? They always cancel. That means I don't have to multiply the middle term if I'm multiplying the twin values. Right? The positives and negatives of the same number. So, when I do the next distribution, I'm not going to do it all. I'm just going to do the first and the last terms. Just those. Forget the middles because what's going to happen to the middles? They're canceled. So why am I going to waste my time knowing that I'm just going to cross them out? Right? This works all the time with imaginary values, okay? But it doesn't work if it was like x minus 2 times x plus 3. No, they just don't cancel it. You got to work it all out. But with the opposite values like these, the pairings, they always work. So my next multiplication is x squared minus I squared. Because x times x is x squared. I times negative I is negative I squared. So let me go ahead and work this out here. I got x squared. Now, minus 9. What's I squared? Negative 1. So if it's negative 9 times negative 1, that becomes positive 9. The I squared, basically, I don't know if you've gotten this by now after doing it. The I squared, all it does is changes the sign. That's all it does, because it's a negative 1. It just changes the sign. So that means x squared minus, there's the 1 there, right? 1i squared. But I squared is just going to change the sign. And there you go. So if it was like 25i squared, it would become negative 25. If it was a negative 10i squared, it just becomes 10. Okay, the I squared just changes the sign. One more distribution and we're done. I know these problems are annoying. It's too much multiplication. I agree with you. But they're not terribly difficult, but they can easily lead you to making a multiplication mistake. Okay, so just be careful. X squared times x squared, that's x to the 4th. X squared times 1, that's positive x squared. 9 times x squared is positive 9x squared, and 9 times 1 is 9. So we get x to the fourth plus 10x squared plus 9. That's D. So that's the 3 that were asked. Are there more? Anything else you guys want to see? Number 68. All right. So 68, same thing, just that we only have 3 answers, which makes sense because notice my highest degree in my answers is an x cubed. That means that they're expecting 3 solutions. Okay, so let me go ahead and write this out. So I got x equals 1, x equals negative 4, x equals negative 2. So that's x minus 1, x plus 4, x plus 2. Remember, you always change the sign of your answer. Now I'm going to distribute, so kind of like we were doing, but notice these will not cancel out like they did before. I'm going to do the first 2, and then we'll do the last one after. So here we go. We get x squared, because that's x times x. X times 4 is 4x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And we still have the x plus 2 there. Okay. Simplify that. I'm going to move it over to the side. X squared plus 3x minus 4 times x plus 2. Now at this point I have to do distribution again, but I have 3 terms, okay? So that just makes it a little bit more complicated looking, right? So I'm going to use lines. I always use lines so I don't get lost. So here's the first one here. Hopefully the answer is not D, but if it is, I'll erase it. So that's going to be the first one that I'm going to do. So let's see. X squared times x, that's x cubed. X squared times 2, that's 2x squared. Now let's do the middle term, the 3x. So 3x times x is positive 3x squared, and 3x times 2, that's 6x. Now I get to do the negative 4. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x, and negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. So if you combine everything together, you get x cubed plus 5x squared plus 2x minus 8. So that would be C. Anything else? Like I said, if not, we'll go back to 46 or 47 and we'll start from there. But we've done a lot of stuff already. I mean, let me zoom out just to kind of see. I mean, you can see we did 71, now we've done 68 and 69. Nothing there yet. Those are easy. There's 59, 55, 52, 47. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 extra that we're not supposed to do. So if I do 8 today, that'd be great, but hopefully we can do a little bit more. All right, so no other questions? If not, we'll start from where we left off. All right. So 46, factor out the common factor. In other words, do they have a common number? Do they have a common letter? So do they have any numbers in common? No, right? I mean, besides a 1, but remember, we don't factor out 1s. And then do they have letters in common? How many? Just an x, but how many of them? Well, just one of them, right? So I'm going to take out one of the x's. And then I'm going to basically remove an x from every term. So 2x to the 5th is 2x to the 4th. Minus x, that would be minus 1 because you get rid of it. So there's just a 1 left. Plus 3x to the 6th will become 3x to the 5th. So that's going to be, well, there's actually only one option, right? If I would have just paid attention first, right? Because we didn't take out a 3x or an x squared, so only C made sense. So I didn't even have to do that. I could have just seen that right away. So I'll repeat what I said to every class yesterday, I think. Pay attention to your options, right? I should have done that. But there you go. So factor each completely. We did 47. The thing about 47 is you did have to divide, okay? So you have to divide. 48, you can factor it right now, but you should hopefully remember that anytime you do factoring, the very first thing you try is greatest common factor. These have a greatest common factor. What number can divide all the other numbers?
3.
A 3. So that means this is 3 times 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And we're only going to factor this, but remember, don't forget about this 3 right here, okay? Because that has to come in on our answer. Now, that being the case, you should know, yeah, A and B are not options. It's either C or D, okay? So, again, just in case you're lost and you're like, well, all I can do is take out a number, I forgot how to factor, well then, that's fine. You're at a 50-50 chance now, right? Not 25%, but 50% chance, right? So here we go. We're going to factor this part here. So A times C is -6. -5 goes here. I did have a student the other day, I think it was in this class, that asked me, she said, I don't know how to work this thing out because if they have to be a -5, this is what my factors have to be. But -2 and -3, they don't add up to or multiply to a -6. And she was kind of having trouble with it. And I said, have you tried 1 and 6? The reason why I tell you about this is because a lot of times we forget to try the really easy one, right? 1 times a number. So this works. -6 times 1. That's a -6. -6 plus 1 is a -5. Okay. We always tend to go towards the smaller factors. We leave out the ones because we think they're not that important, but every once in a while it is used. So that's not my answer though, because remember I have a 2 right here. So I got to divide everything by 2. So this becomes a -3, and this stays a positive half. So my answer is x minus 3, x plus half, and there's a 3 in the front. So that's 3 times x minus 3 times 2x plus 1. So my answer is C. Are we okay with the 47 and 48? All right. 49. Factor completely. Look out for the GCF. X squared and 25 do not have a number in common. They don't have a letter in common, so no GCF. X squared minus 25 is called a difference of two squares, okay? I'll write this down right here. Difference of two squares, which basically means you have a squared minus b squared, and if you can identify them as, well, let me write it with the parentheses here because that's usually the way we do it. A squared minus b squared. That means you can just write a minus b, a plus b. These are supposed to be easy to do. You just got to figure out what squared is x squared and what squared is 25, right? So what squared is x squared? This one's usually an easy answer. Like what do I square to get x squared? Just an x, right? What do I square to get 25? 5. So my answer is just x minus 5, x plus 5. So, part D. It's funny because most people have the most problems with the first letter. Like if it was y squared and I said, what do I square to get y squared? People don't answer very quickly. But it's just the letter. It's just the letter squared, right? Y squared. When I say like, what's 100? Like what squared is 100? They're like, oh, 10, easy, right? But the letter, people always struggle. It's just the letter. So if it's a b squared, just b, right? If it's an x squared, it's just x, right? So, all right. So that's 49. We started on 46, right? All right, so 14 would be 60, I'm sorry. I don't know how to add. Solve each equation by factoring. Thankfully, number 50 is already factored for me, so all I got to do is just write x plus 3 equals 0. X plus 8 equals 0. This will be negative 3 and negative 8. So B. And 51 is the same. It's already pre-factored for me. So I'll just write x plus 5 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. So x is negative 5, x is 2. So it's A. 53, not as simple as the previous two, 50 and 51, but it's not that difficult either. Let's see. We're not having to do like quadratic formula or anything like that. So number 53, I'll do an x method here. 1 times 4, right, because A, B, C is right here. So 1 times 4, that's 4. This is a 5. What numbers do I use? 1 and 4, right? Not 2 and 2, because 2 and 2 gives me 4 when I multiply, but they also give me 4 when I add them. So 1 and a 4. Those multiply to 4, they add up to 5. I don't have to divide by anything, so my factors are x plus 1, x plus 4, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. So x plus 1 is 0, x plus 4 is 0, so we get x equal to negative 1, and x equal to negative 4. So there's your A term, or your A answer. So that's 53. Before I move on, any questions on anything I've done so far? 46 to 53. All right. All right, 54. I think 6th period asked for this one yesterday. All they want me to do is simplify. Okay. Now, if you have a calculator, you just type this in. It'll give you the answer. Okay, it's going to tell you it's 16. Okay. If you don't have one, you can do it by hand. Okay. What is the square root of 64? 8. So this is just 2 times 8. Okay. So there you go. Now, if they gave you something different, let's say it was like 4 radical 20. Okay, just to show you. If they gave you something like that, there is no square root of 20, but I can break down 20 into two numbers, one of which has a square root. What's the square root of 4? 2, right? So the 2 goes out, so 2 times 4, that's 8 radical 5. Or, if you have one of my calculators that you guys borrow, you just type in 4 radical 20, it'll give you 8 radical 5. Okay? You don't have to do anything, it'll do it for you. But if you have to do it by hand, that's the way it's going to look. Okay? But let me erase that because I don't want anybody to get confused with like, what the heck was he doing on the side? Like, that makes no sense. But yeah, that could show up where it doesn't break down easy. But all right, 55 we did. 56 we did not do. So negative 8i times negative I. Well, let's multiply the numbers first. Negative 8 times negative 1 is a positive 8. And I times I, that's I squared. But what does an I squared do to the number? Yeah, it just makes it a minus 1, so it always just flips the sign, right? It just flips the sign. So instead of an 8, we get negative 8. Because it is basically 8 times negative 1, right? Just remember, I squared always changes the sign. That's what it's going to do to a number. Because it multiplies it by negative 1. That's 56. 57, 5i squared. The squared applies to both. So 5 squared is 25. I squared is I squared. So I squared just changes the sign on the numbers. That's a positive 25, so this becomes negative 25. Remember, I'll show the work just in case you want to see it. There's 57. All right, let's see, 58. We already did 59. 58 says use a quadratic formula, so we're going to have to do the formula here. So I need my ABCs, so A is 2, B is negative 5, C is 3. I'm going to use my quadratic formula, so x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So negative b, so negative of a negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times a times c, 2 times 3, all over 2 times a. That's 2 times 2. So x is positive 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. 4 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24. So negative 24 in there over 4. 25 minus 24 is 1. And the square root of 1, oh, it's 1. So I just got to get both answers, right? So one of my answers will be x equals 5 plus 1 over 4. X equals 5 minus 1 over 4. So for the left side, 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 over 4 is 3 halves. So you can already tell your answer is going to be A. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 over 4 is 1. So there you go. That's 58 and 59. We've already done. And just be careful when you're plugging in numbers. And where is 60? So we'll finish this page. I think there's 60 and 61. And that'll leave us at 11 numbers to go, which I think we already did 1, so maybe more. So we'll check right now. So graph each number on the complex plane. Remember, this number can be rewritten as a point, right? What is the point for 3 plus 5i? Anybody remember how to do that? It's really easy. Remember, this is your A, B, I, right? That's what it looks like right now, A plus BI. So what do I write as a point? Anybody remember? Sorry? 3, 5. It's basically x, y. That's all it is. It's because all we got to do is graph it. The I is actually right here. So the question that was asked right now for those of you guys listening to the recording is what happened to the I? Since this is the imaginary plane or the imaginary axis, the I lives in there already. So when you graph the 5, it's assuming the vertical motion is 5i. Okay, so that's why we don't worry about the I, just the numbers, 3, 5. So I'm just going to graph 3, 5. Well, this one is not 3, 5. That's negative 3, negative 5. The next one, that's negative 3, 5. That's not right. I need 3, 5. 3, 5. 3, 5. That one looks good. Okay, and this next one is 3, negative 5, so that's not good. So it is C. Okay, that is your point 3, 5. And remember, if they give you a point, let's say negative 1, 8, then your imaginary number would be negative 1 plus 8i, which I think is what 61 is. Yeah. So first you just want to write the point. So what is this point right here? 2 what? 2, 1, which means it becomes 2 plus 1i, or just 2 plus I. So it's D. Right? That's 61. I know we're a little early. I'll leave this up to you. Do you want me to keep going until we got 10 minutes left, or do you want me to stop? Now here's the plus and the minuses of it. The minuses is that I keep going, right? So that's the bad side of it. The good part is that I'll do more problems. That means that tomorrow we'll finish early, and that means you're going to have a lot more free time. Let me see a show of hands. Let's do this. Put your heads down real quick, because I don't want people to be embarrassed. Okay? Put your heads down just really quick, and then I'm going to have you just kind of raise your hand real quick. So everybody heads down. All right, hold on, just waiting one more. All right, if you want me to keep going, raise your hand. All right, put them down. All right, you can put your heads up. I'm not even going to vote for them. A lot of you guys said yes. So let's keep going for 8 more minutes or 7 more minutes, okay? Okay, well, this one's easy. Name each polynomial by degree and number of terms. So what's the degree on this one? 2, so that's called a what? Quadratic. Notice it's not cubic, it's not quintic. And then how many terms does it have? 2, so it's a binomial, quadratic binomial. That's this one. So that's 62. All right, that was easy. State the number of turns. Well, remember, number of turns, I'll write it down for us right here. It's 1, right? Number of turns is just the degree minus 1. My degree here is a 2, so 2 minus 1 is 1. So that one's easy, not too bad. All right, this is where you need that big old chart, right? What's the degree, even or odd, and then is the A term positive or negative? So my degree here is what? It's 3, so that means odd. Okay, so n is odd, and what's my A term, positive or negative? Negative, so A is negative. And then if I look at that chart, an odd degree with a negative A coefficient looks like this. It goes up to the left, it goes down to the right. So it rises to the left, it falls to the right. That's B. Okay? I mean, you can memorize that or just have it on a piece of paper. All right? 65 is the same thing. So what's my degree? It's 2, so my degree is even. And what's my A term? Negative. So remember, even degrees either both go up or they both go down. Okay, so it's either like this or like this. Positives are up and up. Negatives are down and down. So this falls to the left, falls to the right. Okay, so that's C. We're 5 away from finishing the whole thing. I don't know if I can get to all of them, but we're getting close. 4 minutes. I mean, these aren't hard, but they don't look simple. So here's the thing. When it comes to figuring out the shape of these things, okay, the first thing you want to look at is your very last number. This is your y-intercept, okay? And then I'm going to start looking at which graphs make sense, okay? Maybe they're not to scale, so that's okay. But does A look like it crosses the y-axis at -6? You might say there's no numbers, but yeah, right? What about B? No, that's above the x-axis, so that's not good. What about C? I want to say no, but since it's not to scale, it could be -6. I don't know. It's below. So I'm going to leave it. And D crosses at 0 for sure. That's not it. So it's either A or C. Okay, next, I want to know how many turns does it take?
2.
This one takes 2 turns. So let's look at part A. It goes down. It starts going down. That's not called a turn. Okay, it hasn't turned yet. It's going down. Then it goes up. That's 1 turn. Then it goes down. That's 2 turns. This one looks good. Let's just make sure C is wrong. So if we look at C, it starts going up, and then it goes down. That's 1 turn. Then up. That's 2 turns. Then down. That's 3 turns. Then up. That's 4 turns. That's too many turns. It can't be C. Okay? These problems, like I said, they're not meant to be difficult. They look like they're going to be difficult, but if you know what you're looking for, they're not that hard. My y-intercept is -4. Okay? Does A look like a -4 y-intercept? No, right? What about B? Nope. What about C? Maybe. What about D? Maybe, right? So, how many turns does this one have? 4 turns, okay? So I'm going to put right here 4 turns. So, how many turns does C do? No, look at C, not D.
2.
So 2, right? Because it goes up and then down and then up. So that's 2 turns. So it cannot be C. So it has to be D. And if you look at it, it goes up and then down, up, down, up. That's 4 turns. So there you go. 68, 69, 70. So we got 2 to go. And we got 2 minutes. 70 is easy. You want me to do it?
Yeah.
And then 72, we'll leave it for tomorrow because that was a little bit long, and that'll be the only one we do tomorrow. So here we go. 70. All you have to do is take, well, actually, I don't know if it's going to be easy because I don't know how much you remember this, but we'll see. You're going to take each term and divide it by your number on the outside. So, all right. Remember, when you divide the same variables with different powers, you subtract. Okay, remember that. I'll write it up here. M minus n. Okay. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. X cubed divided by x cubed cancels. So that's just 2. Okay. So notice, I'm going to get rid of A and B because only C and D have a single 2. All right. So it's either going to be C or D. Now, 4 divided by 2 on the second one is still 2. X squared divided by x to the third. X to the what? Remember, you got to subtract the powers. 2 minus 3, -1, which makes it 2 over x. They both have 2 over x's. So it can still be either C or D. All right, next one. 4 over 2, 2. X to the first minus x to the third is x to the -2, which makes it 2 over x squared. So which one is my answer? That's D. All right, and we'll save 72 for tomorrow. And we finished 10 minutes ahead, so there you go. You guys can grab your devices and relax.